59 to 53 in a bipartisan basis after very tough negotiations, prolonged negotiations, in which we earned substantially more investment in America's health and America's economy. But that was opposed. And the deal that we made was a deal that we thought was appropriate in the sense that it had the votes to pass. And, according to Republican leaders that I have talked to, had the representation from both Secretary Mnuchin and the President of the United States that he would sign the bill. He has still said he won't sign the bill, and I urge him and hope that he will sign the bill. Republicans had rejected proposals for higher stimulus checks in the bill that we passed and previous bills. Last week, as I said, we reached a bipartisan agreement. We sent the bill to President Trump to sign, and only then, after we agreed on a figure we thought was too low for direct payments to families and children, $600, but the Republicans would not take a higher figure, only then did the President of the United States indicate that $600 was not enough. As a matter of fact, Mr. Mnuchin had indicated that a lower figure might have been appropriate. Believe it or not, Democrats agree with the President, at least to the extent that we need to sign this bill now. $600 is certainly not enough for individuals who have been struggling these past 7 months, and it isn't enough to provide the boost our economy needs. President Trump, as I said on the floor, on behalf of the Speaker and myself, I asked for unanimous consent to pass a bill which would have responded to the President's request. But because we did not have the agreement of the minority leader, again, I offered there are 3 people who can stop a unanimous consent by any one of them disagreeing. And I offered it on behalf of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and myself. But it was not agreed to. This morning I asked, as I said, unanimous consent. Under the rules, all 3 of us had to agree. 2 of us did. The minority leader did not. House Republicans rejected the unanimous consent request, blocking that increase sought by Democrats and now also by President Trump. The American people need to know with certainty that Democrats are trying to get them higher stimulus payments. This is Christmas Eve. Surely, the President of the United States, whether he's in Mar-a-Lago or any place else, ought to empathize with the pain and suffering and apprehension and deep angst that the American people are feeling this Christmas Eve and sign this bill. As we saw today, Republicans in Congress and the White House can't agree on what they want. Again, this bill passed overwhelmingly through the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. Entire COVID-19 relief package, so desperately needed by our people and our businesses, remains on the President's desk, and he can sign it today. I urge the President to sign the bill we sent him so we can resume critical aid to small businesses, provide peace of mind to renters, resume expanded unemployment benefits, give food to those who are hungry, to assist our healthcare workers, to make sure the vaccine is not just in vials but in arms. In sum, to make sure that the relief that American people need and that the economy needs is adopted. He needs to sign this bill to ensure that the government remains open and serving the American people as well. How ironic it would be to shut down the government at a time of pandemic crisis, the very time when government services are needed the most. No partisan politics. Put the people first. This bill is for the people, for the country. sign this bill, Mr. President. Now I yield to the gentlelady from Michigan, who was the President pro tem, presiding today, and who's been such a fighter on behalf of all the bills I talked about in getting assistance to the American people, not only in Michigan, but throughout this country. Debbie Dingell.
I want to thank my friend, Mr. Hoyer, who's been an incredible leader of trying to get something done over the last few months. It is Christmas Eve, but it is not a silent night. All is not calm. For too many, nothing is bright. And for too many, they are not sleeping peacefully. I did a town hall last night that had people crying, people terrified of what is going to happen. I have for months been talking to 10 restaurant owners a day who are desperately trying to survive. I've been talking to people who were scared they were going to be kicked out from their homes during the Christmas holidays, and still might be if we don't sign this bill. A father who called me 2 weeks ago and who said to me he had told his child that Santa Claus couldn't come this year, but he wanted to be able to feed her for Christmas. People don't know what the hurt is like there. Was this bill perfect? No, but it was a down payment on getting COVID relief to the people of this country. And then the president, when we finally thought that we'd be able to give people hope, that's what people need, hope, and be able to begin to continue to work on this in January, doesn't give a damn about people. He threw more fear. He threw kerosene on a terrifier and is now threatening to veto this bill. Today, Mr. Hoyer, on behalf of he and the Speaker, brought a resolution that would have immediately given that $2,000 payment that the president said he wanted. And Republicans blocked it, not Democrats. I'm merely here to say on Christmas Eve, we will come back in on Monday. I beg the president to know how many people in this country are scared, fearful, terror, hungry, and that we must get a bill done so that we are helping Americans. Compassion, empathy, those kindness are the words we should remember this holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dingell. And now I want to recognize for a few words the gentleman from Texas, Philemon Vila.
Thank you, Majority Leader Hoyer, and I'm proud to be with my colleagues here today on Christmas Eve and with all of you. All I can say is I don't know what we're waiting for. I mean, this country has endured physical, emotional, and economic devastation for 9 months. And here on the eve of Christmas, we finally have a point that we can agree with the president on. That is $2,000 stimulus payments for the people of this country. By all measures, it appears that from a health standpoint, for the next 3 months, we are going to be going through America's darkest days. More and more people getting sick, more and more people dying. And if we're fortunate enough to get past that, you know, given the fact that the vaccination programs have just begun, we can at least be hopeful that by the summer, we can begin to recover from an economic standpoint. And $600 for most of the people receiving it won't last through January. And so there is no reason to wait. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vila. And lastly, someone who knows not only the pain of people who are losing their lives and getting sick and can't give gifts to their children, put food on their table, someone who knows firsthand the economic consequences of the failure to act, Don Beyer, the chairman of the Joint Economic Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Majority Leader Hoyer, and for all of your leadership. It's Christmas Eve, but it is not a wonderful life. This should be a time of healing, of family, of celebrating all that we have here in the richest country in the history of mankind. But our Census Bureau, with its Household Pulse survey, just reported that 27 million adults, that's 13% of the country, reported that their households sometimes or often didn't have enough to eat in the last 7 days. And if you include households with children, that number jumps to 17%. So 1 in 6 American families are going hungry. How do we sleep at night in a 21st century grapes of wrath when so many Americans don't have food for Christmas? Interest rates are near zero. There's little or no inflationary pressure. We have the strongest currency in the world. I've had very few opportunities to agree with Donald Trump the last 4 years, but I agree that we need to send bigger checks to the people most devastated by COVID-19 and its economic effects. It's terribly sad that on Christmas Eve, House Republicans just objected to sending hungry American children and their parents more money, checks demanded by President Trump. I called for direct payments to the American people on March 10th, and the House passed the HEROES bill in May with direct payments, PPP support to small businesses, strong unemployment aid, and nutrition and rental assistance. The House, as Majority Leader Hoyer said, has acted again and again and again and again. And yet, despite the yeoman labors of Speaker Pelosi and Secretary Mnuchin, Senator McConnell blocked everything for 8 months. But we will not give up. I hope on Monday we will send stronger necessary relief check legislation to the Senate, hoping and praying that Mitch McConnell and Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue will open their hearts and minds to the sufferings of so many American families. Mr. Majority Leader, are you?
We'll take a couple of questions. Mike?
Mr. Hoyer, thank you. The UC was just blocked. You come in Monday, you can pass the $2,000 bump, but there's no indication that Mitch McConnell will take it up in the Senate, let alone that it could pass if he did. How do you prevent a shutdown at this point? What is going to happen next?
We can only do in the House what we can do. We will have a new president in less than 30 days, of course, and that president will give leadership. This president, again, told Republican leaders that he was going to sign this bill, and then he gave his 5-minute press conference. We can do what we can do, and so on Monday, I will be talking to the Speaker and to the members of the Democratic caucus to determine exactly how we want to move forward. But we're not going to let the government shut down, nor are we going to let the American people down from our perspective. Let us hope that we join together. As I mentioned, so many of these bills were overwhelmingly bipartisan. Just days ago, both the House and the Senate overwhelmingly passed a bill that we sent to the President of the United States, who has demurred so far. He has not said he's going to veto the bill. I hope he doesn't veto the bill. I hope he signs this bill. And then, as President-elect Biden has said, we will have more work to do, which is what all of my colleagues have said.
So just a quick follow-up. So then the next CR would have to be beyond January 20th. Is that what you're saying? You have no faith in
No, I didn't say that. I said we are considering our options and what steps we will take. And I will tell you that there are continuing discussions going on between the Speaker and the Secretary of Treasury and the administration.
You basically got that one, so.
Yes.
I'm wondering, in hindsight, if it was a mistake to tie the omnibus to the COVID relief. Apparently, President Trump doesn't know, even though his administration requested it, that foreign aid is in the omnibus. So, in hindsight, was that a mistake? You know, the COVID relief is so desperately needed for American people. Why not separate it out? Why not have two separate bills?
Let me say, perhaps the only mistake was believing the President and Secretary Mnuchin when we were told that the bill we passed would be signed by the President of the United States. We signed it on that premise with that expectation and with that representation. So in that context, no, it was not a mistake. Because we thought, as the previous bills, understand, we've had 4 bills that passed overwhelmingly after negotiations with the participation of Secretary Mnuchin on behalf of the administration, and the President signed those bills. So this is an anomaly in this process.
You said the Speaker's talking to Mnuchin, but I mean, do you have any sense that Mnuchin actually has the President's proxy after you've gone through this exercise?
He is the person with whom we have to talk. So we're talking to him. We hope that the answer to that question is yes. It was yes in previous occasions, not just on the COVID legislation, but you'll remember he and Ms. Pelosi reached a budget accommodation 2 years ago, which set the spending levels for 2 years, and that was agreed to as well. So we've had an experience where the president has, in fact, acted consistently with the representations made by Secretary Mnuchin. So we'll see. Again, the president, I want to make it clear, if you listen to the president's 5-minute, whatever adjective one wants to apply to it, he did not say, I'm going to veto the bill. He said that it was insufficient, wanted more, which is why we responded this morning to try to, consistent with the president's request, to accommodate his perspective.
But doesn't that just put you at an impasse? You tried to do what he wanted, the Republicans don't want it, they ask for something, you don't get it. It's like, I mean, honestly, like, you following Mike, like, where do you go from here that doesn't shut down the government? I know you say you don't want to shut it down, but like...
Understand, today is what we call a pro forma session. At a pro forma session, nothing can be done of legislative substance unless it is by unanimous consent. So the only thing we could do today was ask for unanimous consent. That will not apply this coming Monday. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful holiday, and we look forward to seeing you back after your long respite.
Hi.
Here we are.
We just put Christmas dinner in here.
Yeah.
Put a big table and
Hey,
just
listen, I'm
steak.
Jewish, so I'll just stay here for all of it.